Okay, so we've got a quick chat with Rob Humphreys, who's the chairman of the Anglian Vipers, and you've got some real interesting news for us there, Rob.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, we're going to have a crack. We've submitted our application for League One for 2025, which is a big jump from where we've started. We're only into our third season now, so it's an ambitious jump. But I think these opportunities don't come along that often, and yeah, with some of the sort of restructuring that's happening, I think it's maybe it's not now or never, but it might be now or not for a long time. So we thought we better stick our hands up right now.
Rob, what's caused this to sort of happen? Is that, have you got players that are wanting to push up to League One, or is it a personal ambition of yours, or how has it come about?
A bit of everything, to be honest. When we set out, we sort of thought that But I've lived in Norfolk for a long time, and the only professional sporting teams in the region are football clubs. And I always thought that there was so much rugby talent in the region. I mean, if you look at the Rugby Union World Cup last year, there's like 5-6 lads alone just from Norfolk. So it's an area that's always had a wealth of rugby skilled talent. And being a rugby league tragic myself, there has been rugby league teams in the region before, but I think they've sort of been fairly content to be community clubs. Whereas, I'm one of these sort of people that, if you're going to do something, give it a red hot crack and do it properly. And that's why, we sort of, from the outset, we sort of set out we wanted to set out like a big club from the start. So when we set up the club, we set the club up as a limited company, so that as we grew and we could attract, potentially outside investment, that we could make those decisions really dynamically and really quickly, rather than sort of outgrowing our status as a community club and then having to kind of convert the structure of the club. We sort of set out like we wanted to be a big club from the start. So our ambition always was that, we've got 3.5 million people in East Anglia and we're the only rugby league team. Why wouldn't we want to try and pursue the absolute highest level of rugby league that we can? And, for me, Super League is the end game here. League One's a start, but we think we've got the population and the rugby talent pool that can ultimately support a Super League team full of homegrown players.
So, Rob, that's really exciting. I've got family connections to Norfolk, so the idea of being like a pro club, semi-pro club there is really exciting for me. What's the kind of the medium-term steps that you need to go through now to put yourself in a position to be kind of considered seriously about this big jump?
I think we've got a few things going in our favour. Obviously, geographically, I think we make a lot of sense. If you look at the rugby league map in the UK, there's some gaping holes in the rugby league map. But I think we've got geographically we make a lot of sense. We're very fortunate. We've got an amazing home. I'm not sure if you've ever been to Wyndham Rugby Club, but the facility that we have is fantastic, and it's a ground that's got the capacity to grow with both the rugby league and the rugby union team. They're a very ambitious rugby union club. They've got the best setup, facility-wise, that I've seen in rugby union anywhere in the country. So, and they do a really strong fate as a club themselves. And they, after sort of the end of the second year of us playing there, they sort of came to us and said, look, we can see what you're trying to do. We're on board with that. We want to keep you, we effectively want to have you in-house and have you as a long-term, as a long-term team that operates out of the club. And as they grow as a club and, they generate quite a lot of revenue, and they're looking at putting in, grandstands and more and more facilities all the time. I think we've got a really strong platform to grow from. I think, the big jump for us from a rugby league perspective is, where do we find that talent to compete at League One level as soon as possible? And whilst the rugby talent is without question, to me, there's enough rugby talent to compete at League One locally. We're going to have to look outside that, to a degree. And I think by going to League One, if we were successful in our application, I think guys from wherever will take opportunity over money. And I think if you've got ambitious young players that are, maybe outside the Broncos system at the moment, I think the big thing for us is having really strong partnerships with other clubs in the south, not necessarily just defaulting to recruiting from the north. I think there's we've sort of seen a few. We were a curtain raiser to the SCL game at the weekend, and there's plenty of talent running around the SCL league, and we think that obviously one of our rivals, we played Bedford on the weekend, and Bedford have obviously made their intentions clear about them wanting to pursue League One. And I get along with Rob Ashton really well. He's kind of been involved from the start. When we set up, he was running in front of the East competition, and he's a great guy. And Graham Brown and all the guys at Bedford, we've got a really good relationship with them. And I'd sort of said, look, if it's you guys that get the nod ahead of us, then we would want to work closer with you, and vice versa. I think it's really important that we create a genuine pathway for young young rugby players in the South and the East that have got a pathway to professional sport without having to leave home or travel miles and miles to do it. You see in rugby, you get so much talent in the East region, but they've got to go off to Leicester or North Kent or whichever club that region's affiliated with. And these young fellas, they've got to leave home to pursue professional sport. Whereas if we can give young people in East Anglia that opportunity to pursue professional sport without having to leave home, then why wouldn't they get on board with it?
Yeah, 100%. Rob, just looking at the structure of the club, how are you set up currently? What's your junior program like? Are you developing players from a younger age? Or I know the club hasn't been going that long, so just let viewers know what the structure of the club is at the minute.
Yeah, so at the moment we run a male and a female team, and 2 weeks ago we got our first ever sort of second men's team out. We were hosting the ladies festival, which was fantastic, and our ladies have been excellent. They had their first year in 2023, and they made the grand final of the women's competition in their first year. They're getting massive numbers to training. They're 25, 30 plus training most weeks. Really committed and really well led by Stacey Hargrave Walker, who's just a phenomenon in herself. And she's just so passionate. She'd played rugby league in the Forces, and we had a couple of ladies that had a bit of a taste of rugby league before. But they're really on board with the game, and we're seeing that not just in the ladies but in the men's. We have got a lot of guys that never thought they sort of see themselves playing rugby league, but they've come across and had a few games of it and absolutely loving it. We had one guy who's played only his second game for us last weekend, and he's a die-hard rugby union man, but he came into the change rooms after the game and he's just grinning from ear to ear, and he just said, "I love this game." and you can't. There's no amount of money you can pay people to buy to buy that enjoyment. And the guys are realising this is a really good, fun, fast game, and we don't want it to be an us and them between the two codes. I think that the two codes can really, really comfortably and happily live together, and we can give those lads that are really serious about pursuing rugby union, but maybe don't get the opportunities because it's a big player pool that rugby's got to call upon. But actually, they're really enjoying and taking like ducks to water to rugby league, and if they've got the opportunity to pursue professional sport, because when you play sport, that's what you want, isn't it? If you're ambitious as an individual and you want to get the absolute best out of your sort of sporting life, which can only range between maybe 10 to 15 years at the adult level, then if it's a slightly different code that you're paying to pursue that, then we want to be we want to be there and ready to welcome those guys with open arms.
Rob, so in terms of like next steps for the RFLs and dates for kind of notification, all that kind of thing, what do you know about the process now? Because I don't know much about what happens now, other than you've made an application. What happens now?
And is there any minimum requyments as well?
There is. Yeah, there's a lot of minimum requirements, and there's a lot of them that we meet and a lot of them that we don't. But we're by no means the finished article and saying, this is our submission, and we're not looking to continually improve, facilities and recruitment and the off-field, sort of side of things. The first step is we've submitted our application. We've put in our cash flow budgets, where we're going to, how we're going to fund this. And we've put that proposal forward. The RFL obviously go through that with a fine-tooth comb along with the other applicants. Then they'll come out and do a site visit. They'll come out and check out the club. And I know the RFL had sent young Eva out to oversee the ladies festival a couple of weeks ago, and her feedback directly to Pat Cluskey was that we've got a wonderful venue there. It was a really well run day. Everything was really well organised, and it's a ground befitting certainly of League One rugby league. There's changes and there's improvements and things that'll need to be made in time. And obviously with the criteria that they set around, stadiums and things like that, there's obviously a difference between the stadium you're required to be playing Super League as to what you need for playing League One. But what we do have is a really wonderful facility, and I guess longer term in mind, if we're looking to pay, to pursue Super League, then we're going to have to make and find money to help Wyndham Rugby Club make those improvements in terms of seating and grandstands and screens and all of the requirements that you need to be a Super League club. But I have had over the last couple of years sort of intermittent conversations with Norwich City about, is there an opportunity for our bigger games, maybe Challenge Cup games, during the downtime to get onto Carrow Road, and they're always a little bit protective of what they've got there, but I think it's a bit of a builder than they'll come scenario. I think if people can see that we're genuinely ambitious and we're genuinely a club that wants to be a part of the community, I think people will get on board with that. And Norfolk and East Anglia and people in Suffolk and Cambridgeshire, they always find them quite parochial in that they always really get behind their own. You've only got to look at Ipswich Town, Norwich City, how loyal the supporter base is, because they're teams that those people that live there can call their own, and that's what we want the Vipers to become. We want to be a club of the people.
Yeah, Rob, just talking about people, we often like to give people the opportunity to thank anyone that's helped them along the way. Now, obviously, I'm pretty sure a lot of this hasn't been your own, just you. So who is it at the club that you'd kind of want to tip the hat to and say thanks or deserve a bit of recognition?
Yeah, so I mean, from a management perspective, David Parkin, who you've spoken to before, I think, and Ed Lambert are sort of my co-owners. I mean, it always sounds a bit more glorious when you say you're an owner, but it's we're the three directors that set it up initially. We did have another guy who was involved at the start, but left in sort of during the first year. He sort of had frustrations within rugby league and felt that he didn't want to be a part of that anymore. But he certainly had his role to play in sort of getting us up off the ground. But between Ed, David, and I over the last 2 years in particular have been the big driving force from the off-field side of things. Lee Stewart, who's the first team captain, has been instrumental from a recruitment perspective. He has badgered people to come and play rugby league, come and try rugby league, come and train rugby league. He's been fantastic from the male side of things. And then on the female side, I mean, Stacey Hargrave Walker has been an absolute dynamo, building and growing the ladies section. And their coach, Johnny Wheeler, has done a fantastic job with the girls. Unfortunately, he hasn't been able to be with them for their games this year because he just had twins and, he needed to be obviously there to support his partner. But, without people like Stacey and Lee that have led the men's and the ladies teams respectively, we just wouldn't be where we are now.
Right, Rob, last sort of question from me. Do you know who you're sort of up against? I think I've heard there's 8 teams in the running for League One next year. Obviously, there's yourselves, Bedford. I think I've heard Bramley, Buffaloes are in there. Do you know who the other clubs are?
Yeah, I think Gould Vikings had announced that they were looking to do it as well. And I think, whether we're successful or not, I think it's a really interesting exercise to go through. And certainly, to get our names on the lips of those at the RFL to say, look, we've shown we're ambitious and we've shown that this is what we want to go after. So that, maybe, if we're not successful this year, maybe when there's a restructure, or maybe, if there's an unfortunate circumstance where another team drops out and, they know that actually we were the next cab off the rank, or, wherever we sort of fell in the pecking order, that those guys are serious about doing it. And, maybe if we're not successful in the first instance, then maybe, in the not too distant future, there'd be another opportunity to pitch to do it, because our ambition remains the same. We want to be a Super League club. We want to be another professional sporting club in East Anglia, and we think we've got the population, we think we've got the talent that can support that, and trying to really grow that youth section. We've got lots of expressions of interest from juniors. We just got to find the appropriate coaches that can deliver that quality rugby league training. I think that's probably the thing that we struggle with the most is just that localised rugby league expertise. Certainly from a coaching perspective, because there's not a lot of rugby league coaches that sort of are around this part of the world. So from a coaching perspective, if we're looking to bring in a proper director of rugby league next year that oversees the men's coaching, and the youth pathways and things like that, we're going to probably have to look a bit further afield for that. But people are about. There's always people looking for work, and in rugby league, as you can see at the top level, there's always people that are being moved on and maybe looking for another opportunity. But I've been able to sort of call upon some really experienced rugby league people over the last sort of 12 months while we've been looking at putting this application in, and I just like to talk to people. I like to sort of get a feel for this is our plan, what we're doing. What do you think? Where could we improve? What could we do? And whether we're successful or not, our ambition remains the same. We want to be a professional sporting club in East Anglia, and we want to be a team that the people can call their own. And I think ultimately you can always find people to fill roles. Obviously, sometimes that takes a bit more money than you'd like to spend sometimes, but ultimately we want to invest and be a club that's not just a 3 or 4 year, guys messing around on a Saturday. We're serious, and we've got certainly a number of players that, since they've been introduced to rugby league, we've got a couple of lads that have gone off to university and are playing rugby league at university, and have just, their love for the game just continues to grow. And certainly after our win at Bedford on the weekend, which was the first time we've rolled Bedford since we started, they're the one team we'd never taken a point off, and we had a really good comeback. I think it was 32-12, and we pulled back to 42-36 for the win. And there's a real buzz around the group at the moment, and while you've got that buzz, you've just got to capitalise on everything, whether it's growth, whether it's sort of building training, building people's rugby league knowledge, and just building people's awareness of our existence in East Anglia. That buzz that's around the group at the moment is certainly the best it's been in the 3 years we've been going.
Rob, it's really exciting. I mean, I for one will be keeping a close eye on this, and waiting for that notification of the decision or whatever. And I wish you the best of luck. Before we kind of let you go, and thanks again for talking to us this morning. Obviously, we've got the next State of Origin coming up. Have you got a prediction, or have you got a team that you follow there?
I do. Well, so from club level, I'm a diehard Penrith Panthers man. I have been since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
It was a really, really lean period for a long time, but the last few years have been pretty good. But yeah, I'm a Blues man. I'm a bit of a trader. I was a Queensland, because where I grew up in country New South Wales in Australia, a little place called Moree. So when I was little, Moree's is sort of a border town. So Moree's on the sort of quite close to the New South Wales Queensland border. And growing up, mum was Queensland, dad was New South Wales. I was Maroon, and my sister was a Blue. But I was always that kid that if Australia were playing someone in the cricket, I'd always go for the opposition. I was that kid.
Yeah.
And so just so that I had something to argue with people about at school, I used to be a Maroon when I was younger, but I sort of snapped out about it. I sort of snapped out of that in my late teens, and I'm New South Wales through and through. And I think on paper we've had the better team over the last few years. We just haven't executed, but I think we'll pinch it at Suncorp. I think we'll go up there, and that first half of footy that we had at the MCG was the best half of footy I've seen in a long time, and I think we can replicate that and get the chocolates at Suncorp.
Yeah, I hope so. That's my sort of team of choice. I follow the Blues there. I just can't get behind the Maroons for a couple of different reasons. But yeah, I'm hoping it's a good comprehensive winner as well. What about you, Carl?
You know what? It's just a fantastic advert for rugby league State of Origin, isn't it?
Yeah, 90,000 at the last game. It was just incredible.
Yeah, I hope Blues win, to be honest with you. 100%. Rob, thank you for joining us today, mate. Look, I wish you all the best with your application. I would love to, and speaking for career, we would love to see a club outside what we call the traditional heartlands. Make it professional, whether it's you or Bedford or another club outside the M62 corridor. So all the best. Thank you for joining us today, and
No, really appreciate it, fellas.
Cheers. Take care.
Thanks, Rob. Cheers,
Take
mate.
care, fellas.
Bye.
Bye.